Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
She just spent the last 45 minutes explaining to my sister Rachel how they were going to divide Grandma's 6 rental properties in Denver. Properties I'd supposedly never shown interest in. Properties Rachel had been managing since Grandma passed 3 years ago. Properties that were about to become Rachel's investment portfolio. Except they weren't Grandma's properties anymore. They hadn't been for 6 years. They were mine. Let me take you back to understand how we got here. I'm Maya Chin, 32 years old, environmental scientist. My sister Rachel is 35, real estate agent, engaged to Derek, a commercial real estate broker with a luxury car and an even bigger ego. From the moment Derek entered the picture 4 years ago, Rachel's status in our family transformed from successful daughter to the one who truly understands wealth. Our parents, Thomas and Linda Chin, owned a small accounting firm in Boulder. Comfortable upper-middle-class life. Nothing extravagant but nothing to complain about either. They raised us with the typical immigrant parent mentality. Work hard, save harder, invest wisely. But somewhere along the way their definition of success narrowed. And it didn't include environmental science. Why are you studying rocks and trees when you could be in finance? Dad asked during my senior year of college. It's hydrology and ecosystem management, Dad. And because I care about. Your sister's getting her real estate license, Mom interrupted. Now that's practical. And so it began. Every family dinner became a comparison. Every achievement I earned was measured against Rachel's latest sale. When I published my first research paper on watershed management, Mom mentioned Rachel had just closed on a $800,000 property. When I got hired by the Environmental Protection Agency, Dad noted that Rachel was now working with commercial clients. The message was clear. I was the daughter who chose passion over profit. The impractical one. The one who'd never understand real wealth. Then Grandma Alice got sick. Grandma Alice was my father's mother, a sharp-minded woman who'd emigrated from Taiwan in the 1960s and built a small real estate portfolio through decades of careful saving and strategic purchases. 6 rental properties in Denver. Modest homes in neighborhoods that were up and coming when she bought them in the 1980s and 1990s. By 2015 those neighborhoods had definitely come up. Each property was worth between $400,000 and $650,000. Combined portfolio value, approximately $3.2 million. During her final years I visited Grandma every Sunday. Not because of the properties, I genuinely didn't think about them. I came because she was the only person in my family who asked about my work and actually listened to the answers. Tell me about the river restoration project, she'd say, pouring tea. And I would. 4 hours. She'd ask questions, sharp questions that showed she understood not just what I was doing but why it mattered. One Sunday in March 2018, when her health was declining but her mind was still crystal clear, she asked me to stay after our usual visit. Maya, I need to discuss something important with you. He pulled out a folder. Buy properties. Grandma, you don't need to. Shush. Listen. She opened the folder. Your parents think these should be split between you and Rachel. Rachel has been very eager about this. She's already sent me investment proposals for what she'd do with them. I stayed quiet. But here's what I know, Grandma continued. Rachel sees dollar signs. You see homes where families live. Rachel talks about maximizing rental income. You asked me last month if the family in the Colfax property had enough heat during that cold snap. They're people, Grandma. Of course Exactly. She slid papers across the table. These are quitclaim deeds. I'm transferring all 6 properties to you, effective immediately. My attorney has already prepared everything. I just need your signature. I stared at the documents. Grandma, I can't. You can and you will. But Maya, listen carefully. Her eyes were intense. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell Rachel. Not yet. Let them show you who they are first. Let Rachel manage the properties. She doesn't need to know they're already yours. Watch. Learn. And when the time is right you'll know what to do. But that's strategic. Your grandfather used to say, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Let them make their mistakes, Maya. The properties are protected in your name. They can't actually sell them or refinance them. The deeds are recorded. But they don't know that yet. Why are you doing this? Because you're the only one who visits me because you want to, not because you're waiting for me to die. Because you asked about Mrs. Rodriguez's heat. Because when you talk about your work, you light up the same way I did when I bought my first property. Not because of the money but because I was building something that mattered. He squeezed my hand. Promise me you'll wait. Let them reveal themselves. Then use these properties to build something good. I signed the papers with shaking hands. 3 months later, Grandma Alice passed away. The quitclaim deeds were filed and recorded with Denver County in April 2018. Legal, binding, irreversible. And I kept my promise. I said nothing. At Grandma's funeral, Rachel cried beautifully and publicly. Then 2 weeks later at the will reading, her tears dried up quickly when the attorney mentioned the properties. The 6 Denver rental properties, the attorney read, are addressed in separate documentation. What separate documentation? Rachel asked immediately. Your grandmother filed property transfers prior to her death. The will addresses her remaining assets. Transfers to who? Mom demanded. That information is in the county records, publicly available. But here's the thing nobody checked. Rachel was too busy announcing she'd take over management of what she assumed would soon be the family properties. Mom and Dad were too distracted by grief and their own assumptions. Me. I stayed quiet just like Grandma Alice asked. Rachel jumped into management with impressive speed. Within a month she'd contacted all 6 tenants introducing herself as the new property manager. Raised rents by 12% across all properties. Switched property management to her own LLC, Chin Property Solutions. Started sending Mom and Dad monthly management reports. The reports looked professional. Detailed spreadsheets showing rental income, expenses, maintenance costs, and net proceeds. Every month she'd proudly announce at family dinners, Grandma's portfolio generated $8,200 this month after expenses. Mom and Dad beamed with pride. You're doing such a good job, Rachel. Meanwhile I watched. And I documented. Because something felt wrong about those numbers. See, I might study watersheds for a living but I minored in economics. And Rachel's numbers didn't add up. 6 properties, average rent $2,800 each, should generate roughly $16,800 monthly. Even with property management fees, maintenance, insurance and property taxes, the net shouldn't be only $8,200. So I did what any good scientist does. I investigated. I pulled the county property records. Still in my name, Grandma's transfers were solid. I contacted each tenant directly, posing as a market researcher. I got the real rental amounts they were paying. I pulled property tax records, insurance estimates, and typical management costs. Then I built my own spreadsheet. Reality. Monthly rental income, $16,800. Property taxes, $2,100 per month. Insurance, $850 per month. Actual maintenance, $1,200 per month, average. Reasonable management fee, 10% $1,680 per month. Real net proceeds, $10,970 per month. Rachel's reported net, $8,200 per month. Missing, $2,770 per month. Over 3 years that was $99,720. But it got worse. I discovered Rachel had also created fake, emergency repair invoices from her boyfriend Derek's LLC. Charged property inspection fees that never happened. Billed legal consultation fees for services never rendered. Pocketed security deposit returns that should have gone to departing tenants. When I added everything up, including the phantom repairs and fake fees, Rachel had embezzled approximately $178,000 over 3 years. And our parents had no idea. They just kept praising her excellent management skills. In January 2024, 6 years after Grandma's death and 3 years of Rachel's management, Mom and Dad called a family meeting. We need to discuss Grandma's properties, Dad announced at Sunday dinner. Rachel smiled. Finally. I've been managing them for years. It's time we formalize the ownership structure. Exactly, Mom agreed. We've decided the fairest approach is to deed all 6 properties to Rachel, Dad finished. She's proven herself as a manager, she has expertise in real estate, and frankly, Maya, this isn't really your area. I took a sip of water. I see. You understand, right? Mom asked, though she wasn't really asking. Rachel has worked so hard on these properties. She's turned them into a real investment portfolio. You have your government job. You don't need rental properties. Plus, Rachel added, Derek and I are planning to expand. We want to leverage Grandma's portfolio to purchase additional properties. Create a real estate empire. Something Grandma would be proud of. That's wonderful, I said calmly. They all looked surprised that I wasn't arguing. So you agree? Dad asked. I think you should do whatever you think is right. Rachel's smile widened. Great. I've already asked Derek to prepare the paperwork. We're planning a formal property transfer meeting next month. Just family, we'll sign everything, make it official. Actually, Mom interjected, Maya, your attendance isn't really necessary. This is between us and Rachel. No offense, but you don't know anything about real estate. Your sister's boyfriend is a real estate broker, Dad added as if that settled everything. He'll make sure everything is done properly. I nodded. Whatever you think is best. The email arrived 3 weeks later. Subject: Family property discussion. Hi Maya. We're finalizing Grandma's property transfers this Saturday at 2 p.m. Your attendance isn't necessary. This is really just a formality for the paperwork. Rachel and Derek have everything organized. Mom and Dad. I replied with a single word, understood. What they didn't know was that I'd made my own preparations. 3 years of watching, documenting, and waiting. Now it was time. That Saturday I showed up anyway. Mom answered the door, surprised. Maya, we said you didn't need to come. I know. I came anyway. Inside, the dining room table was covered with documents. Rachel sat at the head of the table, Derek beside her looking smug. Dad had his reading glasses on, reviewing papers. Mom's laptop displayed a PowerPoint titled, Chin Property Portfolio Expansion Plan. Well, you're here now, Rachel said with forced politeness. Might as well witness the signatures. Derek, can you explain the transfer structure? Derek stood, clicking to the first slide. Simple quit-claim deeds from Thomas and Linda Chin to Rachel Chin. Once signed and notarized, Rachel becomes sole owner of all 6 Denver properties. From there we'll... Excuse me, a voice interrupted from the doorway. Everyone turned. A woman in a business suit stood there, briefcase in hand. Who are you? Mom demanded. Jennifer Walsh, Senior Title Officer from Colorado Title and Trust. She walked into the dining room, setting her briefcase on the table. I apologize for interrupting, but when I processed your deed preparation request yesterday, I noticed a significant issue. What issue? Derek asked, his confidence faltering slightly. Jennifer opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. These 6 Colorado properties, she read the addresses, cannot be transferred by Thomas and Linda Chin because Thomas and Linda Chin don't own them. The room went silent. That's impossible, Rachel said. Grandma left them to the family. We've been managing them for 3 years. Your grandmother transferred ownership prior to her death, Jennifer continued, looking directly at my mother. Ma'am, these 6 Colorado properties were quit-claimed to your daughter in 2018. She's been the legal owner for 6 years. Mom's face went pale. What? Rachel's voice rose. That's not possible. I've been managing everything, the tenants, the income. Yes, you have, Jennifer agreed. And that's actually why I'm here. She pulled out another document. Your daughter requested a complete title history and management audit 3 months ago. As part of that audit, we discovered some concerning discrepancies. Derek stood abruptly. Now wait a minute, Maya. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. He was staring at me. You own Grandma's properties? I met his eyes. I've owned them since April 2018. Grandma transferred them to me 3 months before she died. Why didn't you say anything? Mom's face had gone from pale to red. Grandma asked me not to. She wanted to see what you'd all do. She wanted to see who you'd all become. Rachel stood up, her chair scraping loudly. This is insane. I've been managing those properties for 3 years. I've raised property values, increased rental income, maintained everything. Actually, Jennifer interrupted, that's the concerning part. Miss Chin, according to the audit, You reported average monthly proceeds of $8,200 to your parents, correct? Yes, after expenses, management fees, maintenance. The actual net proceeds should have been approximately $10,970 per month. That's a discrepancy of $2,770 monthly, totaling $99,720 over 3 years. The room went silent again. There were additional expenses, Rachel stammered. Jennifer pulled out more papers. We also found invoices for repairs billed to Derek Morrison LLC that don't match any permits filed with the city. Emergency plumbing repairs for $4,500 at 2,847 Colfax. Except the city has no record of permit applications, and the tenant reported no plumbing issues that year. Derek's face had gone white. There are also property inspection fees, legal consultation charges, and various other expenses that cannot be verified. When we add the documented discrepancies to the unverifiable charges, the total is approximately $178,000. What? Dad exploded. Rachel, what is she talking about? Dad, I can explain. These are legitimate business expenses. You stole from your grandmother's properties. Mom's voice shook. They're my properties, I corrected quietly. And yes, she did. Rachel spun to face me. You let me manage them. For 3 years. You knew and you said nothing. Grandma told me to watch and wait. She said you'd reveal who you really are. And you did. I stood up, walking to the table. Every month you sent Mom and Dad reports showing how successfully you were managing the portfolio. Every family dinner you bragged about your real estate expertise. You used Grandma's properties, my properties, to make yourself look successful while you were stealing almost $180,000. I wasn't stealing. I was embezzling, Jennifer said calmly. The legal term is embezzling. And Ms. Maya Chin has requested a complete forensic accounting audit and has indicated she may be pursuing legal action. Derek grabbed Rachel's arm. We need to leave. No. Don't say anything else. Sit down, Derek, I said, my voice harder than I'd ever used with family. Because here's what's going to happen next. I pulled out my own folder. 3 years of documentation. I have every management report Rachel sent you, I said, looking at my parents. I have the real rental amounts from direct tenant interviews. I have property tax records, insurance costs, and legitimate maintenance expenses. I have copies of Derek's fake repair invoices alongside the city permit records showing no work was ever done. I spread the documents on the table. I also have testimony from Mrs. Rodriguez at the Colfax property, who never got her $1,200 security deposit back even though she left the place spotless. I have emails from Mr. Park asking Rachel why his rent went up 18% when similar properties only increased by 6%. I have everything. Rachel's hands were shaking. For 3 years, I continued, you made me sit at family dinners and listen to how I don't understand real estate. How I chose passion over profit. How I'd never be successful like you. And the whole time, you were building your reputation on money you stole from properties you didn't even own. I turned to my parents. And you too. You told me my attendance wasn't necessary at this meeting. You said my sister's boyfriend is a real estate broker. Like that made him qualified to steal my properties. You were going to transfer deeds you never had the right to transfer for properties you never owned without even checking the county records. Dad's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Maya, Mom finally spoke. We didn't know. You didn't ask. In 6 years, neither of you thought to check who actually owned the properties. You just assumed. You assumed Rachel deserved them. You assumed I didn't. You assumed I'd go along with whatever you decided. What do you want? Rachel's voice was small now, desperate. I want the $178,000 you stole. Every penny with interest. You have 90 days. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll figure it out. Sell your car. Liquidate your investments. Ask Derek's real estate empire for a loan. I don't care. But you have 90 days or I file a formal police report for embezzlement and fraud. Maya, please, Mom started. No. I cut her off. For 3 years I watched you praise Rachel for stealing from me. I watched you dismiss my career, my choices, my life while you celebrated a con artist. Grandma Alice knew exactly what she was doing when she gave me those properties. She knew who had character and who didn't. She was right. I picked up my folder and turned to Jennifer. Thank you for coming. Please send the complete forensic audit to my attorney. Of course, Ms. Chen. Jennifer packed her briefcase. The full report will be ready in 2 weeks. As she left, I looked at my family one more time. The properties are mine. They've always been mine. And they'll be managed properly now, by a real property management company that doesn't steal from tenants or forge invoices. I'll be contacting each tenant to apologize for the last 3 years and to personally ensure they're treated fairly going forward. Maya, Dad tried. I'm done, Dad. With the lies, with the comparisons, with being treated like the disappointment. You wanted Rachel to have Grandma's empire? He can't have it. Because Grandma didn't build an empire for someone who'd exploit it. She built it for someone who'd protect it. And she chose right. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Mom? Dad? Consider this my resignation from family dinners. When Rachel has paid back every dollar, when you're ready to actually apologize instead of making excuses, when you're prepared to treat me like I matter, you know where to find me. You can't just leave. Rachel shouted. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family, I said. Family doesn't lie to family for 3 years. Family doesn't dismiss someone's entire existence because they chose a different path. You taught me that today. Thank you for the lesson. I left my parents' house and didn't look back. The following Monday, I contacted a property management firm with excellent reviews and transparent pricing. I personally called each tenant, introduced myself as the actual owner, apologized for 3 years of Rachel's mismanagement, and reduced their rents to fair market rates. Mrs. Rodriguez got her security deposit back with interest and a personal apology. Rachel's 90-day deadline came and went. On day 91, I filed a police report. The Denver District Attorney's Office opened an investigation into embezzlement and fraud. Derek's fake invoicing scheme became a separate case of fraud and forgery. My parents called 127 times in the first month. I didn't answer. Finally, Mom sent a letter. Maya, we were wrong. About everything. About you, about Rachel, about what matters. Your grandmother saw what we were too blind to see. You are successful. More successful than we ever understood. Not because of properties or money, but because you have integrity. Rachel is facing charges. Derek left her. We've had to confront the fact that we enabled this. We told ourselves we were being supportive, but we were actually participating in your dismissal and Rachel's corruption. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't deserve it. But we wanted you to know, we see you now. We see who you've always been. And we're sorry we didn't see it sooner. We love you. We're proud of you. And we understand if you never want to speak to us again. Mom and Dad. I kept the letter. I didn't respond for 6 months. A year and a half later, Rachel pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud. She was sentenced to 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and ordered to pay full restitution of $178,000 plus interest, $194,340 total. Her real estate license was permanently revoked. Derek faced separate charges for the fraudulent invoicing and ultimately pleaded guilty to fraud. His real estate broker license was also revoked. My parents sold their accounting firm and downsized their lives considerably. They attended therapy, both individual and couples counseling. They worked on understanding how they'd created a dynamic where one daughter could do no wrong while the other was perpetually dismissed. 18 months after that meeting, I finally agreed to coffee with them. Just coffee. No promises. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman, Dad said quietly, stirring his cup without drinking. She saw everything we couldn't see. She told me once, I said, that the best investment isn't the one that makes the most money. It's the one that reveals the most truth. She invested those properties in me because she knew they'd reveal the truth about all of us. And they did, Mom whispered. God, they did. We talked for 2 hours. Not about properties or money or careers. About how they'd measured worth, how they'd defined success, how they'd failed me while thinking they were guiding me. It wasn't reconciliation. Not yet. But it was a start. Today I still own those 6 properties. The rental income funds a nonprofit I established called the Alice Chin Foundation, which provides affordable housing assistance and environmental education programs in underserved Denver neighborhoods. Mrs. Rodriguez now manages the foundation's community outreach. She's brilliant at it. The properties themselves are maintained beautifully, rents are fair, and tenants know they're not just living in investment properties, they're part of a community that values them. My parents and I have dinner once a month now. The relationship is different. Quieter, more honest, less performative. They ask about my EPA work and actually listen. They volunteer at the foundation sometimes. They're trying. Rachel and I haven't spoken since the trial. I hear through my parents that she's working retail, slowly paying off the restitution. Derek moved to Arizona. Their engagement ended the day he was indicted. Sometimes I think about Grandma Alice's words. Let them show you who they are. She gave me more than properties. She gave me a test that revealed truth. She gave me the patience to wait, the strength to watch, and the courage to act when the moment came. And she was right about everything. The properties weren't the inheritance. The truth was. And that truth, about character, about worth, about what it means to build something that matters, that's the real empire Grandma Alice left behind. Not measured in dollars. Measured in lives changed, in dignity restored, in a family forced to confront its own failures and maybe slowly learn to do better. That's an inheritance worth having.